All right, folks, look, this photo on your screen right now will haunt Donald Trump. It will haunt the Republicans in 2026. It will haunt them in 2028. This is a long line at a food bank in small town Kentucky, a deep red district, and the line has never been longer. This is Donald Trump's America. Notice how you only see these long lines at food banks when Donald Trump is president, whether it be 2020, whether it be now. This is the Trump effect. And I want to give you some context on this photo because this is really important to understand just how bad 2026 will be for the Republicans and just how badly Donald Trump has messed up this country. It was uploaded anonymously onto Reddit by this user saying, "In the longest line I have ever seen at our local church food bank. I've been standing here for an hour. It's 34 degrees. This user goes on to say, "I've always went here when things were bad. This year, our family could not afford anything nice for Christmas dinner, so we turned to a local church food bank." Donald Trump's tariffs in action, ladies and gents. I've never seen the line this long at this food bank. This is 4 times the size of every previous year. We've only been to this one 4 times since 2017. Notice that Donald Trump became president then, but this year the line wraps around the building a second time to the left behind those rows of cars. And you'll see those cars here, meaning that the line wraps all the way around that as well, according to this user. Everyone is freezing, and an older lady in line had to be taken inside because she looked like she was about to pass out from being too cold and shivering. It sounds like the United States is in a depression. I mean, it really, and the data says that we are in a very bad spot. If this is a sign that America isn't doing well, I don't know what is. I'm in a small town in Kentucky with a population of less than 4,800 people. Literally 10% or more of this county's residents are here. 10% of the town was at that food bank then. Doesn't mean that more people didn't go to the food bank. They were there at that moment in time. This is insane. Let me reiterate that this is Donald Trump's America. Under Joe Biden, we had the fastest growing economy in the world. Our GDP was soaring. Inflation was coming down after COVID. Things were getting better. We had sensible people in important positions. We didn't have these outrageous tariffs, which just make things more expensive for hardworking Americans and benefit the wealthy people. This is Donald Trump's America. And let me tell you, this is not a one-off. This isn't, oh, the food bank was busy this day. This is something we've seen consistently. This video right here is a long line outside of a food bank in Cleveland, Ohio, after SNAP payments were paused during the government shutdown. Just watch, look at this line. I mean, again, Donald Trump's America. It is all over the country. It's not just in Kentucky. It's not just in Ohio. This is happening everywhere. And it is so incredibly sad, especially as the holidays approach. And Gavin Newsom even laid into Donald Trump as well, because these are recent recent layoffs generally in both the public and the private sector. And look at all of these major companies that are letting people go. You have UPS at 48,000, Amazon up to 30,000, Intel 24,000, the US government, of course, 300,000, Verizon 15,000, Ford 11,000. These are a lot of companies that have donated to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said, we're going to be in the golden age. Where's the golden age? Where are these people going to work? Where is the golden age that Donald Trump spoke about? Where is this booming economy where everybody benefits? Well, unfortunately for MAGA, I hate to be the one to break the bad news, it's not coming. Donald Trump's policies are hurting people. You did not see these numbers under Joe Biden. Nothing even close. You just didn't see them. Under Donald Trump, this is the new normal. Where will these people work? Where are they going to go? They just lost their jobs around Christmas. Where are they going to go? And so look, given these numbers, given the food banks that we just saw with the long lines, I want to cut to an interview I recently did with Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, who has seen this firsthand. And he talks about how not only Donald Trump is ruining the economy and his tariffs are bad for people and things are so expensive, but what Democrats can do to solve it and win back voters who were swindled by Donald Trump and made to believe that he was somehow going to help them with the economy and make things better. So I highly recommend you wait and listen to the end of this video and listen to what Wes Moore has to say, because he puts it so well, and I think this is the path forward for Democrats. Watch.
And so I literally came from running one of the largest poverty fighting organizations in this country when one day I was like, I'm gonna run for governor. Wasn't sure it was gonna work out, but I was very clear on the issues that I wanted to work on. And so I'm proud of the fact that in just 2.5 years, we've accomplished a lot of the things that we set out to do. We raised a minimum wage. within our state. Because I'm like, it's ridiculous. You have people who are working jobs, in some cases multiple jobs, and still living at or below a poverty line, right?
Yeah.
We gave a tax cut to the middle class. We gave a tax cut to military veterans. And we asked people that were doing very, very well to pay a little bit more. And I'm unapologetic about that. That we've been able to do things like making Maryland the first state in the country that has a service year option for all of our high school graduates. That we've been able to do things like making Maryland the first state in the country that now has a place-based investment strategy to deal with the issue of concentrated and oftentimes generational childhood poverty. We've made the most aggressive assault on child poverty than we've seen in our state's history. We've made permanent a child tax credit. We have an enhanced earned income tax credit. That we've been able to actually drive on affordability. We've been able to create new housing and platforms to create new and affordable housing in the state of Maryland. So like we've gotten a lot of really good things done. But the reason I'm excited about re-election is I'm like, yo, we're just getting started because I still got a lot that I said we wanted to get done before we were done. And so we're thankful for that.
Well, I'm going to ask you about this later because you get it in every interview, but that to me sounds like a presidential platform. I'm just...
Well, listen, I wish that was a platform that the president of the United States would actually focus on.
You could focus on it.
No, I'm not running president. But like I'm telling you, I would love if the president of the United States, instead of stop doing this foolishness, would say, you know what, we do need to raise the minimum wage in this country.
Yeah.
Because we got people who are working jobs, in some cases multiple jobs, and still living at or below a poverty line. I would love if the president of the United States says, you know what, I'm going to stop this trade war foolishness and these tariffs. Because since he's been the president of the United States, we've seen how energy prices have jumped over 20%.
Yeah.
We've seen how the price of food, the price of clothes, everything has jumped. Just last week, I was at the supermarket with my daughter, and we went out shopping, and we got bread. She wanted some whipped cream. I got some fruit. We got some coffee. A couple other small things. I spent over $100.
God, that's insane.
It's like, guys, what is going on right now? That we have small businesses because of these tariffs that are getting raked. I was talking with a small business in Prince George's County who's a brewing company, a family brewing company. And she's like, the price of aluminum has jumped so high that she's no longer taking a salary. So she doesn't have to continue laying off people. Like, it's this type of thing that I wish the president would focus on things like raising a minimum wage, making things more affordable, creating more job opportunities, focusing on apprenticeships and trade programs, doing service year options that can get people back into the workforce, using his pardon power like I did, where I pardoned over 175,000 misdemeanor cannabis convictions in the stroke of a pen. Because I'm like, it's ridiculous that we're talking about the benefits of legalization when we haven't dealt with the consequences of criminalization. So that's how I'm using my pardon powers to do things like doing mass pardons for misdemeanor cannabis convictions, while he's using pardon powers for Bitcoin people. So it's like, so I do wish the president would actually focus on these issues, and we could have a real partner inside that seat.
And I know you'd work with them. I mean, I know you'd work across the aisle on any of these things. And you talked about affordability.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Obviously, right now, a lot of people are thinking about affordability. And I think it's something that obviously played a huge role in 2024 and Donald Trump's victory. He lied about it. He got into the Oval Office for it. And now he's paying the price in the polls. At least, a lot of people are saying, well, Trump is not doing anything on the economy. Yeah. So I'm curious, you've talked about a couple of things here, but what are you doing in Maryland to tackle the affordability crisis? And then somewhat a connected follow-up. Yeah. How can we win back the young white men that look like me, who voted for Trump specifically on this issue?
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that people really caught attention to when we ran, and frankly, one of the reasons that we won, is because of how well we did with young men. Had it not been for young men, young voters in total, but specifically young men, we would have never won. And so people are trying to understand, it's like, so how did y'all do so well with young men? I said, well, part of it was we didn't talk about young men like they were a voting bloc. We actually focused on real issues that were impacting our young men. And I say it both because from a data perspective, if you look at everything from rising suicide rates, that we now have 3 times the suicide rates for young men that we had from just years ago, that the college attainment rate and college degree attainment rate in Maryland is the same as it was in the 1960s. So we are watching, just if you look at the data, and I think you got to follow the data. But I think the other thing that we were very honest about from Jump Street was, that we have to be able to, if you want to support your young women and girls, make sure your young men and boys aren't falling behind. And this is not a binary conversation where, my mother, and I was raised by an immigrant single mom who is like an angel on earth for me. But there were just some fundamental things that she could not teach me about how to be a man because she didn't know it. The same way I have an amazing 14-year-old daughter right now. And I feel like, I'm a great father to her who teaches her so much, but I can't teach her how to be a woman because I don't know. Like she needs women, her mom, her grandmother, her aunts, friends to help teach that to her because I can't teach something that I don't know, right? That's why we've had such a focus on making sure we're doing things like recruiting more men into education, recruiting more men to become mentors and coaches and tutors, making sure that our young people, that their first exposure to a male teacher is not in college.
Yeah.
Making sure that we are doing things like the service year option, where every single high school graduate in the state of Maryland now has a chance to have a paid year of service to the state of Maryland. They can choose however they want to do it. They can work with veterans, they can work with older adults, they can work with young people, their choice. But the thing is, tell us what makes your heart beat a little bit faster. And we're going to give you a pathway to go do it. And how we've seen how this has been revolutionary when it comes to supporting our young men. And so we have a very unapologetic focus on supporting young men inside of our state. And I think the affordability piece, it completely ties to that because this is also about one of the things that young men and boys want more than anything else is they want to be providers. They want to feel like they are relevant in their families. And so the reason that we've done things like, quadrupled the pathways into apprenticeship and trade programs and making sure that people know that, yes, we have some of the best four-year colleges in America, but not every one of our young people need to attend one of them in order to be economically successful. And so we're creating real pathways for apprenticeship and trade programs that's overwhelmingly helping out young men to become real contributors to their family. That part of the reason that we did the mass pardons was because it allows people to get back into their families and back into the workforce and have a real sense of pride of what you can give to your family. And so affordability and being able to support our young men and boys, in at least we believe in Maryland, completely go hand in hand. And that's actually why we're addressing both in the work that we're doing.